Hi, everybody.
Welcome back to the Weekly Pet Roundup. My name is Jessica. I'm with the Pet Parenting Reset. This is Isabel with Covered in Pet
Hi.
Hair. And
Hi.
hi. So this week we are talking about dog bites. And I think, I, I mean, obviously there's a lot of like dog bite prevention that can be talked about. But I know last week when you were suggesting this, you were like, we need to get kind of in the nitty gritty of this and like realize that this is not any sometimes you have to make really hard decisions. So, yeah, I'm gonna let you start off with like where you want this, I think, to go because it's a big topic and it can be a very emotional topic as well.
Yes, so trigger warning for today, first of all, because we will probably discuss behavioral euthanasia, which is when you put a dog, and we're talking about dogs specifically today,
Hmm.
when we put a dog down because of a behavior, because of escalating behaviors, because of bites and bite histories, because that dog is incompatible with life as we know it. So that is behavioral euthanasia. As best as I can explain it. There are many
Yeah.
reasons for behavioral euthanasia, but today we'll talk about bite related euthanasia. And the reason I wanted to talk about this topic is because a friend of mine from the DC area reached out and she says that a friend of hers found a dog. The details escape me right now. I read them when the Facebook message came in, but um, and the dog ended up staying with them. And the time frame again, I'm not 100% on, but over the time that they've had them, let's say in the past year or two, the dog has bit. Um, Resource guarding was
Mm-hmm.
mentioned around meal times, and immediately I thought, okay, management. But I didn't dig into the situation because I don't want to make this a personal discussion about this case. I want to talk about it more
Yeah.
generally. But one of
Yeah.
the recommendations that this particular family has received is behavioral euthanasia. So I thought this is a conversation that a lot of people have, and it's actually a lot more common than many people maybe think.
Yeah.
And I know that people have conversations about behavioral euthanasia relating to fear as well and separation anxiety when like it just escalates so bad that the pet is a danger to himself and others, him or herself and others. So, but we'll talk about, like just bites in general and when a dog is biting so often and in ways that make it really hard for training to work,
Yeah.
what we do as humans to set them up for failure often,
Oh
and
my
how
gosh,
we can set them up
yes.
for success. So, first, I think the most important thing is to understand that what a bite is. So, I did look up, and if you have any experiences with this kind of stuff, please join in comments, either on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Instagram, and we'll get to you as soon as like there's a little pause. But um, there are bite scales out there. The one that I always kind of refer to is the Dunbar bite scale, dog bite scale. It's Ian Dunbar is a really well-known dog trainer. I've heard him speak at a couple conferences. I have a lot of respect for him. I've kind of lost track with him of him for over the past few years. He's one of your OG like
He
positive trainers.
he is, and I've taken a few of his courses online, and I think the reason that you may not have heard from him in a while is because I think his son is taking over the
Because
business.
he's probably retirement age, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there's some difficulties in that, because it's not the same person, though I'm sure he has the same style of training because that's what he grew up with, that's what he knows. And yeah, I think I still get emails pretty regularly from them. I say them because I think his father is still involved in some ways in making like not necessarily the everyday content, but like if they need to do like a YouTube video or
Mm-hmm.
put out a course or whatever, like I think his father is still involved in that. But yeah, I think he's probably one of my favorite resources for
Yeah.
dog training. Absolutely.
Same. So he And one would think that this would be kind of well known, but I know for a fact most pet parents don't know about the Dunbar bite scale.
Mm-hmm.
I know that professional pet sitters may not even know about it. Some of the newer ones, I know the ones who've had a lot of studying and done a lot of education in the industry do, but it is something that I feel like people don't know about. And I think it's so important that every single pet parent know about this scale, because a snap is
Yeah.
considered a bite. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, oh, he didn't bite, he just snapped. And what
Mm-hmm.
I love about this scale is that it is considered level 1 is a dog to snap and make no contact.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
level 1 bite. And what that's
Yeah.
so important for pet parents to know, because people don't take notice until you get to like a level 3.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
sometimes it's really a lot of damage has been done. Not to say it's too late, but a lot of damage has been done. So pet parents, dog parents, if your dog is one that snaps,
Mm-hmm.
um, Satchmo, the dog that I just took from my sister, snaps all the time, which is one of the reasons why he doesn't live with a toddler right now. He lives in my house where my kids are older and literally just ignore him. They've been told to never pet him, and they don't. But you can't tell a
That's good.
toddler that who's
You
16 months,
cannot.
right?
Yeah.
On the contrary, he looks like a stuffed animal, so that toddler would just go after him. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, just teach the toddler." That just tells me you don't have toddlers. You have no experience with toddlers. They're like, they have a death wish. You can tell them not to jump off a cliff, and they will. So that's why you hold on tight to them. Yeah, so the bite levels for the Dunbar dog bite scale start at level 1, which is again a snap. There's an aggressive, reactive, open of the
Mm-hmm.
mouth, snap of the teeth, or even just a redirection that looks aggressive, and there's no contact made on the person or pet or animal that they're trying to bite, or
Yeah.
they're trying to warn.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us call
And
those warning bites too, right?
mm-hmm. Yep. And Kim has done
Yeah.
this. I'm not gonna lie. And I took it very, very seriously. And I think that's one thing that pet parents often don't do is they're like, oh, that's cute, that's funny. That's not cute, that's not funny. It's it is natural. Like we are putting a dog in an environment that is not natural to them, giving them no real instruction that they understand, just saying no to them all the time,
Right.
right? Without telling them what they should be doing instead, or showing them what they should be doing instead, and then expecting them to act the way we want them to act without having taught them any of it. Like
Right.
that's, in my opinion, the
And a lot
reality.
of people will be like, well, it's communication. He's communicating. And I'll say he just because it's easier for me to refer to dogs in general as he. I think
Yeah.
actually in the pet industry or in the dog training industry, usually they refer to dogs as female, like cars and stuff. But I literally,
Mm.
if you're going to compare a dog to a car and call it female just because of that, I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm just going to refer to all of them as he, in this scenario, just so I don't have to correct myself. But yes, your dog is communicating when they do a level 1 bite, which is AKA a snap, AKA a warning bite, AKA a request for space. It is communication. The problem is that dog should have other ways of communicating that don't get to the level where it's almost a bite. And what we're seeing when a dog almost bites in a level 1 is that either you ignored the communication that came prior, or
Mm-hmm.
that dog doesn't have the tools to communicate prior, which is something that you can't always blame the human. A lot of the times you can blame the human, but like with Satchmo, I saw him, I witnessed him ages ago jump on my grandmother's lap. She does not like dogs. She did not invite him up. She did not want anything to do with him. And then she kind of looked at him, and as she looked down, she moved and he snapped her.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a
he
very Chihuahua thing to do. I know he's
that's
not
a
a
very yeah
Chihuahua, but
yes that's a very confused, insecure, unsocialized, under socialized dog thing to do. He jumped on her, because it was storming. But then
Oh,
he got there and he was like, but don't touch me, because he was
right. Yeah.
scared, right? So he
Yeah.
doesn't have the tools, he doesn't have the communication. In his case, my grandmother did nothing wrong. Obviously, she was in a rock and a hard place, because if she had been like, get off of me, he would have bitten her for real. So she was just kind of like, ugh, she doesn't like pets. So she didn't want him on her at all. She's the only one in my family of significant pet lovers that is like, I don't care about dogs and cats. Like, I don't care
Yeah.
about them. A cat attacked her when she was little. So from then on, it was like terrified, petrified of pets. That probably didn't help the situation either, because he thought he was jumping on my mom, and he ended up on the lady who doesn't like him. And so there's a lot of psychology at play, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if they're communicating by snapping at you, that's why we take that so seriously, because that means that either you're disrespecting your dog's boundaries and you're ignoring other communication that comes before the bite, like licking the lips, like yawning, like looking away, like whale eye, all those appeasement signs that we
Mm-hmm.
refer to as appeasement signs. You're ignoring all of those, and then you're pushing your dog to this, right?
Yeah. Well,
Or your dog doesn't have the words, which
mm-hmm.
also does happen. And like, we need to, and those are the dogs that I think are at highest risk for behavioral euthanasia, because
Mm-hmm.
those are the dogs that are so unpredictable that sometimes we end up in the situation where it's like, I don't know when he's going to bite. I don't know what triggers the bite. So now I'm really scared of this dog escalating and hurting somebody and not having the tools to solve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, yes, aside from those dogs who don't have those tools, who don't have any warning signs because they just don't know, those types of dogs, set those aside for a minute. And like, when I think about so many of the bite cases, it is all I can see in my mind are like these videos that people post on social media of, their children, their toddlers, like pulling and jumping on top of the backs of dogs. And it's like, this is not funny. This is not cute. And you can see in this animal's body language, in their eyes, that they are so uncomfortable and they are trying so hard not to bite. And those are the ones that like just break my heart, because that's going to be the very first time that dog bites, they're going to get put down.
Well,
When
that happened to me with a friend. Friends were over ages ago with their toddler, and my dog Socks had a bite history, and we had never seen her bite anybody, but she bit like a neighbor because the mailman was coming and the dog walker had her on too far thing, and it was like that perfect storm, and the lady was too close and she like snapped, and she did a level 3, a single bite with a shallow wound. It was a tiny little nick, but it was still a level 3. We're not going to make excuses for her. But
yeah.
then that was like, that had been like 3 years prior. We hadn't seen any kind of behavior like that. We had the dogs away. We take them outside because it's about to storm. And so we're like, before it starts raining, let's let them pee. We're going to put them back into the room where they were in. And the toddler starts really getting into that. Of all the 4 dogs we had, the one with the bite history. And
Of
I
course.
got distracted, and Chris was monitoring. Chris was, my husband was supervising, which was our first mistake. I'm the one with the pet experience. I'm the one who has done dog training and who's learned dog behavior. I was getting something for one of my guests playing hostess, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris was like, hey, don't, she doesn't, Socks doesn't like, she's scared of strangers or something. And the mom was very chill
Mm-hmm.
about the situation. And Socks actually walked, we have cameras in our home just because we had 2 dogs that didn't super get along. So we always wanted to see, like, if something happened, we want to be able to replay it. They were crated separately when we weren't there. It's usually what happens usually was when we were there was like a scuffle and we wanted to see what happened. So we had cameras. And when I watched the camera over, I saw how Socks was walking away from the child, but the child kept following her.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear the mom saying, don't climb the dog. So she saw that he was about to kind of climb the dog,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Yeah.
see my dog tense up and go, and
Yeah.
in this case, thank God, it was a level 2 where the teeth made contact but did not break the skin. She was a 65-pound dog and he was a toddler. If she wanted to hurt him, she absolutely 100% would have hurt him. The
Yeah.
angels, our ancestors, our angels, our spirit guides, everybody's guardian
Somebody
angels,
was
everybody was there to protect that child. But I was told it was unprovoked until I saw the video. And I said, it's not unprovoked. She's walking away and the child is following her. And so is the mom, who she doesn't know. So even though for the mom, it was like, I'm supervising my kid. Now it's two strangers, not just one, right? So like,
mm-hmm.
it's mom was completely right to be right there guiding the child, but the dog is like two strangers. And Chris was there, but he was kind of behind them. So in
Mm-hmm.
Sox's mind, he wasn't there to reinforce anything or protect her because he was too far away. He was between these two threats. In her
Yeah.
mind, they were threats. And this is a dog that had been trained with shock choke prong collars, a dog with a ton of stranger danger. And so in her mind, it was 1000% provoked. In
Yeah.
my husband's mind, and what obviously the toddler, it's not his fault in any way. Like we should never have set him up in that way, or her. Really, it's
Yeah.
a adult human failure. And obviously the mom was way too cool with like, don't climb the dog. Like if I'm super paranoid about dog kid relations, so I'd be like, how dare you even get near the dog? Walk away now, right? Like if I have to tell you not to climb the dog, you're way in the dog space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely. So like everybody kind of like dropped the ball, myself included, and the kid got bit. And everybody who did not know dog behavior said it was unprovoked. When I watched it back and I sent it to a friend of mine and my then business partner who had just gone through like Karen Pryor and Victoria
Mm-hmm.
Stillwell's training, and she was like, unprovoked. And she was, and you know, because she knew Socks, my former business partner, and she said, I'm so proud of Socks. Did you see her walking away? Did you see her
Yeah.
be like, I don't like this, I'm gonna walk into the other room? And it was so funny
Yeah.
because yes, somebody with that experience and that knowledge sees that the dog tried to avoid it and the human set her up for failure, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the same thing happened with Noah and Socks. A few years later, she was resource guarding me. I said to Chris, this is getting tense. I could see her. And by the time Chris made his way over, she snapped at Noah. And that's when I actually had to consider behavioral euthanasia for Socks, which she had gotten to a level 2 once. And we're going
Mm-hmm.
to go into, it goes to level 6, guys. And I even had to consider behavioral euthanasia with this dog. I thankfully did not have to make that decision because we managed it really beautifully. And then one day she just got sick and died of unrelated things. She was older, so we did not have to face that. But she only got to a level 2, which is teeth make contact, but do not break the skin with my son. But after that was the second level 2 with a toddler, and I had a toddler and I was pregnant with my second. It was very, very concerning, right? Concerning that this dog is incompatible with toddlers, but I'm the most experienced pet owner she could probably have, right? Like,
Yeah.
where else does she go from my house?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Other than somebody without kids,
well,
but then
no,
still,
because she still had a fine history. So
right.
who was going to take
Yeah.
her, right? So she
Right.
had years before bitten the neighbor because the mailman, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
who was going to take her with like now 2 level 2 bites and 1 level 3 bite? Nobody. Like,
Yeah.
so it was one of those situations where you run out of choices. So level 3 again is a single bite with shallow wounds, and that's what this. And then like the person that Socks bit, who was a neighbor, we didn't know them, but like obviously the dog walker gave the information because once there's any kind of puncture, you need to get like the rabies certificates and all that. So all that was done. And we paid like her copay. She went to like urgent care. They cleaned it out. And it was like
Yeah.
a non-issue. It was like
Yeah.
$35 or something. It was not a big deal. Um, but obviously it becomes the second that there's any kind of puncture, any kind of wound, it becomes an
Yeah.
issue with animal control, rabies
Hmm.
certifications, or certificates. Making sure, that's why socks, like, even though I wanted to titer test her, I always got her vaccinated because I couldn't risk that she would not have that certificate because she had a bite history. And I knew that dogs with a bite history tend to bite again. And if she had a rabies certificate, she could quarantine at the house. If she didn't, she could end
Hmm.
up somewhere else quarantining, or they could force us to euthanize if there was enough of these incidents. So I really was very scared to vaccinate her every 3 years, but I had to for
Yeah.
her sake. That's the only dog that
Yeah.
I've ever had where I was like, I have to do this every 3 years. And then level 4 is a single bite with deep wounds. Um, and obviously that's like either one puncture or, like, the whole, all of the both canines or something like that that goes in pretty deep. Level 5 is multiple bites with deep wounds. They went in once and they went back and they went back and they went back. And then level 6 is obviously the death of the victim and or flesh consumed. And like, we we refer to those as maulings. Level 6 is a
Yeah.
mauling.
Yeah. Ugh, I couldn't imagine. I mean,
I
I understand it
the
happens,
trauma
but
of that, for everybody involved. I have a friend who, she was mauled by a dog. She was a professional pet sitter for longer than I was, and then she's never been able to take care of dogs again.
I would
She's
imagine.
such a fear. She recognizes where she went wrong, but still, like, it's just too scary, right? Like, her faith in knowing how to prevent it went, like, she lost faith in herself,
Yep.
knowing how to prevent it, right? And so she felt until that incident that she was prepared with her education, her experience to manage or to kind of, and she says that she could have died. She got a level 5. Um, Thankfully, he never got her down on the ground, but in her mind, if he had su- succeeded in pushing her down to the ground, he would have gotten to a level 6.
Oh my goodness.
And the thing about pet sitters, dog walkers, is that you're alone in the house. So there's nobody else to help you. Right. So, like, that's really
Yeah.
when these level 5s and 6s happen, is when you're alone.
Yeah.
Or, like, or you're walking in your neighborhood and a dog attacks and you don't have anybody near you to help you. It's you and your dog. And again, bite levels are just bite levels. It doesn't mean against a human. It could be against another dog,
Yep.
and it could be another animal like a cat. We kind of take it less seriously, I feel like, if a dog bites a cat, because it's like they're if
Yeah.
they're like out in the wild versus obviously in your home, very different, because then where was the management, where was the intro? But like, I feel like if a dog bites another dog at a dog park, it's a lot more severe than a dog gets off leash and like chases a cat and like catches it, right? Like, very different situations, scenarios. And so, but a bite level just refers to a bite, no matter who's on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I've definitely heard of people having dogs and cats in the same house and the dogs killing the
Yes.
cats. That's a thing, and I can understand how traumatic that would be as well, and that even though that is, especially for some dogs, I actually worked with a couple many years ago who um fortunately did not have cats in the house, but would go crazy on a walk if it came across a cat. And it was a big dog, and it was a mixed breed dog. And as soon as I got there, I could see, I was like, I realized this is a mixed breed dog, but you could see the ridgeback on this dog. And I'm like, well, you have
Yeah.
a mix with a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and these dogs were bred to hunt lions. And so this is another reason why I am, even though it seems silly and frivolous to get DNA tests on dogs. Like, I actually really, really
Same.
like them because it can give you a lot of insight into even if it's a bunch of different breeds, like what were those breeds bred for? What should you expect in the behavior of this animal? And it reminds me of, like, I think there was actually a TV, one of the shows that Jackson Galaxy did where he trained multiple Rhodesian Ridgebacks in a home that had cats. And like it was about management. It really was about
100%.
management. And I think it was, yeah, because they were like, they wanted to give their cats a really good life, but they couldn't because they had these dogs. And I only bring that up to say that, like, there are a lot of reasons. It's not just aggression, it's not just poor socialization, it's not just you did something wrong, though I do feel like that is the case in a lot of situations, just because we
100%.
don't know, we're not trained, um, we're not very well prepared. Honest to goodness, like, you you take a baby home, you take a dog home, you take a cat home, you get no training on how to do any of this,
No.
right?
And honestly, we've been, I think there's people who, like my grandmother, will never forget that it's an animal. In her
Yeah,
mind,
yeah.
it's an animal. Like, cats are filthy, they belong outside. Dogs eat garbage, they belong outside, right? So
Mhm.
like in her, she's like an extreme. And then we have the other extreme where most of us are on, the people who love pets and share our lives with them, is that where they're like our babies.
Yeah,
They're not our babies, they're animals, right? Like, they're just like we
right.
are. And when the second we start accepting that they're animals and are different species of animal than we are, the better equipped we are to handle things. But when we are like, we are that cloud, that those pink colored, those rose colored sunglasses on, where they're like our sweet little babies, they're not our
Yeah.
sweet little babies. Like, they have huge canines that were designed to like tear flesh. And that's for
Mhm.
both cats and dogs. And the bigger the dog, the bigger the bite, right? So like, the reason why more big dog bites fall on the bigger dogs is because they have the bigger mouths and
The
the bigger
power.
jaws, and they
Yeah.
make more of a dent. If we were to just analyze all the Chihuahua bites,
Oh my
they would top the
gosh.
list of
Yeah.
biters, right? But that's not, they're kind of inconsequential sometimes. And luckily, a lot of people don't suffer any like long term, like with a cat bite, you have to be super careful because cats have so much bacteria in their mouth. And a lot of people with dogs, it's not as bad. They don't puncture as far, so like it doesn't become like that huge issue. Even though you should always seek veterinary medical attention or veterinary attention if your dog gets bitten or cat gets bitten. But we're more scared of cat bites than we are of Chihuahua bites, even though they're about the same size. But then we're of course super scared of a pit bull bite or a Rhodesian Ridgeback bite, because these are very powerful dogs that can really do some damage. But all dogs bite. All dogs bite for many reasons, like you said. I'm a pet first aid instructor, and the first thing I say is, you want to get bit, start administering first aid to a dog that's injured without
Yeah.
muzzling it. Like, you
Yeah.
want to get bit, that's a really good way to get bit, because one of the biggest things we do is teach how to use like a leash or something as a muzzle, to wrap it around the mouth and do this and do that. Or we set, like in my classes, I would sell these little just like long felt things that you could keep in your first aid kit. Like, if you're hiking with your dog and your dog gets something, some kind of puncture or something, you don't go in and start bandaging your dog or putting some kind of antiseptic on that wound unless that dog is muzzled, because the dog that is moved into pain or is in pain will bite you. and,
Absolutely.
and that is just one of the million reasons why a dog will bite you.
And that brings up a good point, because you may not even know your dog is in
Truth.
pain, meaning they could be older and experiencing arthritis. They could have twisted their leg and you don't know it. Like, there are a lot of reasons. They could have something internally going on that you don't, they could have cancer and you don't know it.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
there are so many reasons why a dog could be in pain and you don't even
Correct.
know
And
that
like,
they're in pain.
that's why I think people do see more bites as their dogs age, because
Yeah.
they start as like little warnings and then they escalate, not only because we continue to ignore them, but also because as they get older, their tolerance gets smaller.
Yes, absolutely.
right? Like, and they're not, now it's, I have less tolerance. I have more fear around my
Hmm.
pain or around my, just like knowing that I'm not as agile as I used to be. I have maybe cognitive decline where I don't remember how to manage this situation. So like all of it just compounds, and now we see these old dogs biting. And the first thing I would say, if your dog is old and biting, go to the vet. Immediately go to the vet.
Yeah,
Tell your vet,
yeah.
I was touching him here and he bit me. Like the only time that Noah, Titan and Noah, I always confuse them. Titan, my first love, the love of my life, the reason that I'm in this industry, Titan. The only time he ever snapped at me, again, level one, I'm going to call it a snap, but it's a bite, um, was when I was like touching his paw or something. And I didn't cut his nails because I knew he was super, but I think I went to like see if they had like cut it too short or something. And he kind of like was like, whoa, 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 don't touch it. And I hadn't even touched it yet,
Yeah.
but it was like, don't touch it. And he had never done that to me, right? But now he was
Hmm.
15 years old. So
Yeah.
now there were a lot more layers, a lot more reasons to defend himself than there were maybe when I did the exact same thing and he was 5.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we have to
absolutely.
remember that, like, and then people get really, they take it personally. I did not take that personally at all. Like, it did not mean to me that Titan didn't love me anymore.
Yeah.
It didn't mean, like, it didn't mean that he's a jerk. A lot of people put like a lot of human emotions around dog bites. What they are
Yeah.
is a communication, and
Hmm.
it's something we need to pay attention to, but it's not personal unless we know, we can recognize, like, I did something wrong. I put my dog in a bad situation, and then it's a moment of self-awareness that you need, but it's not something you take personally. It's like, oh, my dog didn't like that and I need to respect that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I find that after multiple bites, people start resenting the dog, which
Yeah.
does not help the situation
No.
at all.
No. No. And again, it's the psychology of humans and not understanding, not, I think that's not understanding like what's going on with your dog, and just thinking that very similarly to like, how so many people think of like cats going outside of a litter box as being um like they're upset about something, they're trying to get back at you. You're like, no, that's not what's happening at all. And I think that's very similar with dog behaviors that people don't understand, and so they're like, well, there's a problem, they're being mean, they don't like me, they're angry about something. Well, yeah, they may actually be angry about something, but they're really trying to communicate with you in the best way they know how, and they just may not know a better way to get that across to you. And like you said, the older they get, the less tolerance they have.
Yeah.
Same with cats.
Same with
And I
humans.
mean,
Same with
well,
humans. I'm
yes,
telling you,
yes.
I go to an assisted living community twice a week because my grandmother's in assisted living, and old people do not hold their tongue. They're constantly fighting somebody about something. Their tolerance levels are low. They have to have things very routine. They have to have things the way they want it. So this is not just our pets. This is just an aging thing, right? It's part of aging in any species, is where we become less adaptable as we age. We become less inhibited as we age, and we often have less control of our reactions and our emotions as we age.
Yeah.
My grandmother is like so sad all the time, whereas in the same situation 20 years ago, she might have made the best of it, right? So like it's one of those things where
Yeah.
like she really struggles, and I've seen couples hit each other at assisted living, where I guarantee you they may have had a toxic marriage, but they weren't like on a random day just slapping each other with a purse, right? So like,
Wow. Yeah.
people expect so much of pets when we're seeing it in humans, where they can't control their emotions. And if you've ever had like an aging parent or relative, you see that they start like cursing, and where you may have never seen them cursing your whole life. They start, being aggressive, where they might have been the happiest person on the planet. And that's usually because of cognitive decline, some kind of neurological situation, which we can actually notice in humans because there are changes to their behavior and to their vocabulary, and to they can tell you, I don't remember that,
Mm-hmm.
or I can. Our pets can't tell us what they
Right.
can and cannot remember.
Yeah.
So like now we're just guessing. And that's why the older the pet gets, the less I want them around children,
Yep.
especially if they've never had children.
Mm-hmm.
An old dog does not care about your cute new baby or toddler. They don't care. They don't care. They don't want to be besties with it. They don't want to take pictures with it. They don't want to lay in the same bed with it. They don't want anything to do with it. If your dog is the super duper exception, I'm sorry, I'd rather you not know it. I'd rather you
Yeah,
protect your
that's true.
child to the point where you are like militant around your dog and children, especially if the older they get. Titan was, I think, 12 when Noah was born, maybe 11. And I can tell you, it ruined his life. He was like, what have you done? What are you doing? None of my dogs, I had 4 when Noah was born, 2 when Mila was born, and um, none of them were really that impressed with a new baby. And the only one that I think will be really impressed is if you get a puppy once your toddler or young child is already a young child or whatever. And then, of course, a puppy's going to love kids because they have similar energies and they're whatever. But like
Mm-hmm.
the biggest concern for me with bites is always pets and children. And it's
Yeah, I
always the
agree.
younger the child, the bigger the bite, even if it's a small dog. Like I remember there was a Jack Russell that mauled a baby to, um, you know, fatally mauled a baby. And it was like, why was that baby left like where the Jack Russell could reach it? Because maybe he had never even exhibited any signs of anything. But like that's why you are so duper super duper careful about pets and kids. And then there are kids who, even if you supervise them, just don't know how to deal with dogs. I've seen that happen multiple times. I've seen a friend of a friend who like does not stop until they get what they want from the pet. Like if they want the pet sitting on their lap, they're going to do it whether the pet doesn't want to. And if your kid is still 12 years old doing that, your kid has no business being around
Yeah.
a pet. And if you're that way as an adult, then you have some really big waking up to do. Like the pets aren't these pets, our dogs are not in our life to do everything that we want them to do. And the more we push them, the more we're going to see bites. And if you see your dog is biting, you have to know why they bit. And like with kids, a lot of it is the resource guarding. You let your toddler crawl around and then they go in the dog crate. Ha ha ha, pictures, so cute. The kid's in the dog crate. My kid this morning, my 7-year-old, sitting right next to the dog bed. And I was like, I've told you 500 times. And not just because of the dog, because it's covered in fur and you're about to go to school. But also, that is her bed. You have a million places to sit down. That's Socks's bed. Get
Yeah.
away from there. And you see them on the dog bed, on the dog, on the dog, on the bed, on the crate, in the crate with the dog, putting their hands in the
Yeah.
water bowl, putting their hands in the food bowl. And you're like, of course the dog is biting. He has like 3 resources in this house: his bed, his crate, and his food bowl. And your child is attacking all of them. And so if you
Yeah.
know your dog has one time growled, make sure your kid does not put that hand in the food bowl again, because that next time it's going to be a level 1, and the next time after that it's going to be a level 2 until it gets to who knows what.
Yeah. There was, since you bring up the food bowl and the resource guarding, I mean I have worked with dogs like that, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. Um, and I think it does work better when you have older children, if you have children, because they need to be able to understand not just that they need to stay away, but why they need to stay away. Because kids, right? They're gonna push boundaries always, I mean, that's their job. That's literally
No,
their
and
job.
they're learning by making mistakes.
Hmm.
Like you can tell your kid
Right.
all day long not to do something, but they're going to do it anyway just because, not that they don't believe you or trust you, but they have like this like almost innate need to learn it on their own and be like, okay,
Hmm.
so what happens if I like poke myself with this pencil? Like, oh, it does hurt. Okay,
Hmm.
she was right.
Yeah. But I do, so my late husband, his daughter, he used to always tell me this story that when she was young, like toddler age, he was not home from work yet. His ex-wife fed the dog, did not pay any attention to what was going on. The toddler went while the dog was actively eating and stuck her hand in the food bowl, and the dog literally like bit her face. She had to go to the hospital, get stitches, all the things. And they did decide to they gave the dog to a couple that didn't have children. And for me, like I understand that. I do feel badly for a dog in that situation, like to be moved from the only home they've ever known, probably, into a new home for really, honestly, in my opinion, no fault of their own,
Right.
because that child was not being managed properly. That child was not being taught in, like, that was a very teachable moment to no, we don't, there's a reason why
Supervise. Like,
that,
where's the supervision? We just take
and
it for granted that these are like little fluffy
and
little toys. They're not.
yeah, an environment, like how easy would it be to put up a baby gate to where a toddler can't even get to the area where a dog is
Correct.
eating, right? Like that is the simplest thing you could do if you are not, and look, I'm not a parent, so I'm not here to say one way or the other what a parent should or should not do, but like environmental management is the easiest thing you can do if you don't, if even if you don't want to be a parent and teach your child what is right and what is wrong, put up a fucking baby gate. I'm sorry, put up a baby gate.
I agree with you. I 100% would put up the effing baby gate. Like, when after I had always managed Noah and Socks
Yeah,
after that resource guarding where they were she was resource guarding me. I had just walked out
yeah,
to
yeah,
the yard. I have a big enough yard that Chris was with Noah and Socks was like sniffing. And then I walk out and she's like, Mom's here. And then my
yeah,
son is like, Mom's here. And
yeah.
so they both came at me. And I saw her kind of glance at Noah, competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
immediately said, This is getting tense. Come get him. And Chris, my husband, is neurodivergent and a guy. So his reflex time, I swear, is so slow compared to like a new mom who's just like ready to like, mama
yeah.
bear everything. And so he takes a second to literally think through what I'm saying as a neurodivergent brain holder. And by the time he reached me, it had already happened. And we were like, that was too close. Like, that was too close. That could have been horrible. And even though we did everything right, I noticed,
Mm-hmm.
I called him, he
Yeah,
came as quickly as he knew how.
yeah.
It still happened. So from that moment on, we never had them in the same room at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Titan could be in with if he wanted to, but if we were gonna, like, let's say Titan was laying down, we wouldn't bother him, but we would say, okay, Socks, let's take you over here, put you outside, because she loved to sniff. So we'd put her outside while Noah was playing, and then eventually Titan, the second a noisy toy would get on, like go on, he would just go to the door so he could go join Socks. Or we would immediately just bring everybody outside with treats, because management was the only option at that
Mm-hmm.
point. It didn't matter how much we recognized her signs, how quickly we moved. It was
Yeah,
too close for comfort
yeah,
and it could never happen again.
yeah.
And so I am all about the baby gate. We had baby gates all over the house because also we have a 2-story house. So that helped. So it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if we're upstairs, the dogs can be downstairs and vice versa. And then there's that baby gate where I can let my toddler crawl wherever he wants to crawl, and I can maybe like put away laundry, and I'm not worried about like watching everybody interact.
Yeah.
So baby gates management, and you don't have to have babies to use baby gates. Like if you have
No, I have
two,
baby gates.
yeah, I have 2 dogs before we even became parents who did not get along. And so when we left the house, only one could be left out. And honestly, the one that was the troublemaker was the one that got created, because I knew Kira wouldn't attack the other two, but I didn't trust Socks to not attack anybody, even the friend she'd had since 6 months old, because I'd seen her be unpredictable and reactive. And I was like, just to be on the safe side for everybody, she's going to be crated. And she was 12 years old and she was still crated. And it was for everybody's safety.
Yeah.
And this was a dog that never passed a level 3 bite one time. And still, it was like, one thing I always say, it will escalate. It's not going to ever go. A dog that bites one time is probably going to bite again.
Yeah.
And instead of going back from a 3 to a 1, they're going to go probably from a 3 to a 3 or a 3 to a 4. Like, that's what they're going to do. It's going to escalate. It's not going to de-escalate. And sometimes the frequency gets bigger because they get more reactive. Every bite is a reinforcement that they have every right to be upset and scared. I talked to a dog trainer after the first fight that Socks and Kira had, and she was like, dogs do not want to bite. They don't want to bite. They never want to bite, because a bite is an invitation for a fight, and they don't know if they can win that fight.
Right.
So no dog goes in looking for a fight. They know they're better off peaceful. That's a healthy dog with a healthy survival instinct is not going to bite willy-nilly.
Yeah.
They're going in for a bite because they feel threatened, and because they feel like if they don't engage, they're going to get mauled themselves, right? Or they're going to get hurt themselves.
And I think it would I think it's important to acknowledge that, yes, there are horrible people out there who, yes, do train dogs to fight. And yes, a lot of these dogs can be rehabilitated. Not all of them, but a lot of them can be rehabilitated and do wind up in loving homes. Oftentimes, those homes do not have children, but it is possible. Yes, there are dogs, again, as Isabel just said, a healthy dog that has healthy boundaries, that has never been through like that kind of trauma. They never want to go out and seek a fight. That being said, yes, there are dogs who have been raised and bred and really horrible things done to them.
Those
Yes.
are programs. And you also have your guard dogs that like are literally like trained to do that. Like, they have no discernment at that point. But your pet dog will never want to start a fight. It's like at the dog park, if you see, that dog that's bullying everybody, that's not a healthy dog. That's not a dog that is okay. And it's kind of like the bully in the playground where you say, that poor child's probably bullied at home, and that's why they're coming over here asserting their power. And like, once you understand psychology, you're just kind of like, that poor bully is being bullied, and this is what they're learning. And so the same thing happens for a lot of dogs, where they, maybe they're being kind of like alphaed at home, right? Like submissive, what is it? Those submissive roles, what do they call them? Oh my God. Alpha roll, the alpha roll, where they alpha roll them and like pin them down to like show them who's boss. Like, if that's why we are so against all of these like force forward or forceful types of training, because what you do is you're teaching that that's the norm, and then if they're going to go interact with another dog, that's what they're going to do to them.
Right.
So it's very dangerous to like set those tones.
Yeah.
But we have 10 minutes left, and like, we've talked about management. We've talked about, obviously, dog training. Dog training is so important for if you notice a dog bite.
And muzzle training can be.
And going to a dog trainer who is positive reinforcement based. I know that there are people out there who will tell you some dogs need force. I am completely in disagreement of that. And I think that the dogs that need the least amount of force are the ones that are biting. Like, please, let's not give them any more reason to be scared of the world in which they live, to distrust humans. I think you and I are always in agreement on that. Like, we're not trying to beat bites out of the dog. Like, that, does that sound like ridiculous, or does that sound ridiculous? Like, I can't beat my child into being kind. That is insane. So that's the same thing. And then a good dog trainer who is positive reinforcement based, the first thing they're going to do is muzzle train. That's the first. And do not be turned off if your dog, if your trainer says your dog has a level 1, 2, 3, they need to be muzzle trained immediately. Like if they say that,
Mm-hmm.
trust them. That is good advice. So long as it's done like properly, where your dog accepts the muzzle. They have really
Mm-hmm.
comfortable muzzles for
Mm-hmm.
these dogs.
Yep.
They don't, I was talking about like a ribbon for like a first aid situation. That's a temporary muzzle that you just put
Yeah.
on for like addressing an injury. The muzzles that they have now, you can get them custom made, you can get them custom colors. I mean, there's like a bunch of, you can buy them just as is for $20, and it's like a cage muzzle that's very comfortable and breathable. They could still open their mouth, just nobody's gonna get hurt. And it's really good too for the dog that like thinks a walk is a buffet. Those dogs
Yeah.
can wear those too, and they can be so much better off. But like, there are times, like in the case of the person that I heard about, I don't know this person, they were told there's nothing we can do. So the dog trainer, whom I don't know what their techniques are, but the dog trainer said, my recommendation professionally, and I say professionally with a grain of salt because I don't know what this person's qualifications are, but they recommended behavioral euthanasia. Like the dog is a danger to himself and others and must be euthanized. And I do believe that there are cases when that is the case, like when that is indicated, but I don't know that based on what I heard that it would be the case for this family. So since you're the one who has worked with pets with parents, how do you feel about, you know, having to make that recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, I personally have never been in a situation where I felt I had to make that recommendation, and I'm very grateful for
Yeah.
that. I not only because I feel like it would be a really difficult thing to have to tell somebody, but also because I am glad that I've never been in that position
Yeah,
to be around a
correct.
dog that,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
um,
dangerous
that I have
dog to
felt that
work with. Yeah.
absolutely. But I can understand, like I have such a soft heart that I feel like it would take a lot for me to get there. But at the same time, I do agree that if a dog's quality of life is suffering, if there's no way that you're going to be able to give them a good quality of life, that no one, that there isn't anyone that can give them a good quality of life, um, that it's an option.
Yes.
And like it would be better, I think, to humanely let them go than for them to live in a cage their entire lives,
Yeah.
or for you to be scared in your home for however long that dog is alive.
Or for
Like that,
you to potentially put another family at risk.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, I think we both agree, and we've talked about this, where rehoming is a really great option. Like you have,
Yeah.
like Satchmo was rehomed back to
Mm-hmm.
me. I rescued him in Louisiana. He moved in with my sister in Spain. My sister recently had a child, and he moved back in with me. But the reason I took him is because she couldn't safely give him to anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, who was
Right.
going to take him that would have as much experience with him, that he already has like an established relationship with, that wouldn't put him over threshold? Because you're talking about a dog that's super attached to my sister, who's been with her for 8 years, and whose life was uprooted by a child screaming every day, right? Because like babies cry so much, and it's so stressful for pets. um Even the most chill pets, like, oh, again. And so you're talking about what, then taking that dog who's in a different country now, because my sister moved all of them to the US for a while during her maternity leave. What do you just like hand them over to some stranger and be like, good luck? Because now that
Right.
stranger might get bit and that dog might get put down. So when she started talking about, like, I don't think he's compatible with my toddler, which I completely agreed. And I said before the toddler even got here. But then I met the toddler and I was like, this is not going to work. I said she was like, I might have to rehome him. And I looked at her and I was like, to whom?
Yeah.
Who are you going to give this potentially dangerous dog to? The only
Right.
person is me. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't work out with my
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
you're going to need to know that there may not be anywhere else for him to go.
Yeah.
Like, that was the
Yeah.
conversation we had, because it has to
Yeah.
be the right family,
Mhm.
maybe with or without kids, right? Because like even, I mean, obviously we don't want kids to be mauled, but we also don't want like young professionals to be mauled either. Like we don't want like
Mm-hmm.
retirees to be mauled. Like we, all the people who don't have like growing kids, those demographics, we don't want them to be hurt either. We don't want neighbors to get hurt. We don't want lawsuits. You know, you could lose your house. Um, your whole life if your dog mauls somebody. Like you can get sued to
Mm-hmm.
the point where you have nothing left. I mean, it's a huge risk to have a dog that bites like that. So like if it is not possible to safely rehome the pet, like finding a house without kids, like that's pretty simple to do. I mean, like one day my kids will move out and I could potentially take like a dangerous dog, quote unquote, and that's a spectrum, right? Like depending on how dangerous. Because I think I consider Satchmo a little dangerous dog. Like I think he's a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
a dangerous dog,
Yeah.
mostly because he's unpredictable.
Yeah.
Um, but if there is no other family, like with Socks, I called my ex. I've shared this in the past that Socks and Titan I got in a previous relationship, and we shared custody of them. And he when Socks bit when Socks bit Noah back, I think I was pregnant with Mila. I remember having the conversation, calling my ex and being like, Socks just bit my child. Like we had been in touch, so he knew that I had had a child, and we really just like updated each other. I updated him on the pets because they were with me now,
Yeah.
and so he knew I had a child, and he was like, I can't take her as much as I would love to because he adored her. I have a dog with what was that? What's that condition where they they throw up their food?
Oh, the like
Yes,
megasophagus.
megaesophagus. It was a female. Socks did not jive with other females. She had like very severe situation where she had to like wear some contraption.
Mm.
It was a big deal. So he was like, I would love to take her, but like I'm not doing that to my current dog,
Yeah.
right? Totally understandable. We both said like if anything changes, let me know. And so like my other choice was management. And so we did it beautifully. It worked out great. But like if she had done something like a level 4, level 3, I would have immediately had to make a decision because there was nobody else who could take Socks. Thankfully I didn't have to. But like I think that the level of the bite matters. I think your resources matter. Like if you live
Mm-hmm.
in a big city and you have a ton of support and a ton of training and a ton of trainers and you have really great behavioral veterinary, like a veterinary behaviorist that you can work with. I mean, there are only like 100 in the country, but a lot of them do virtual now. But like back in that day, that wasn't really an option. So I was really like between a rock and a hard place. So yeah, like I immediately considered behavior euthanasia. She was 11, 12, and she had a bite history, and I couldn't find any place to rehome her to. And I said, let's try management. And if something happens, like we are going to need to make some really hard choices.
Yeah.
Thankfully for us, that did not pan out. But I have a client who had to behaviorally euthanize her dog because she had a traumatic incident. And since that traumatic incident, she got pinned under a car and she just became
Oh.
completely reactive to everything. She just got so
Yeah.
scared. I don't know that they tried like an SSRI for the dog. That would have been my recommendation to start with. Like, let's get her fight or flight down. Let's get her cortisol down. Let's figure out a way to bring her down and then manage. But she had to say goodbye because she was like, I don't trust this dog anymore. She's constantly biting me. And she was also older, right? So she was like, I think that dog was like at 12, and she was like, there could be something else happening. And like, now I'm scared of her. I'm scared of my own dog. And like, I can't rehome her.
I
And so it was
know that's such a
time,
hard
right?
place to
It was,
be.
it was a really hard thing to do. I think, but when it gets harder is even when they're young, that's when it gets really, really hard because
Because
that's when
they
you're
have
like,
this huge amount of life in front of them that needs like this huge amount of time that you need management, and you don't know like how much management is it going to get like worse as they get old. Like, and of course it probably Not always, but probably
Yes.
is. And
If you
yeah,
don't
that's
educate
tough.
yourself, it will
Hmm.
get worse. If
Yeah.
you continue to allow your dog to experience triggers, it will get
Hmm.
worse. If you stack triggers, like with socks, it was like the stranger and the mail truck and the this all at the same time. It was trigger stacking. That's why she bit.
Hmm.
I mean, and I had told the dog walker she needs to be on a super short leash. I mean, she was on a 6 foot leash, but like I would shorten it to like 2 feet from me.
Hmm.
She was always right
And
there. She did not get any give. And he gave her
yeah.
too much give and he didn't believe me, right? Like a lot of people don't take the warning seriously enough. And so a lot of people think I'm like super overprotective and like, you know, doomsday. But I am that way because I've seen it. I've seen the
Yeah.
results of taking risk, and I don't like to take risks with
And
other dogs.
and just this popped in my head, so I want to mention it. I know we're already over time, but this is another reason why you have to do your research when you are choosing a dog trainer. And in my opinion, and in Isabel's opinion, you do want a positive reinforcement dog trainer, because there are dog trainers out there that may call themselves balanced or whatever, and they will use methods like flooding that will, at some point, the dog will freeze, and they will take that and say, look, your dog's not reacting anymore. Well, they're not reacting right in that moment because they're frozen, but you are, just what Isabel said, you are triggering them so badly that the next time you have no idea what that dog's going to do. That dog could have been at a level 1, and by using a flooding technique, they could jump to a level 5 or a 6, like that, without going through the steps, because you have done so much damage to them.
Yeah, it's the
And so you
equivalent
just
of
have to
putting
be,
somebody in front of their trauma and like
yeah, like if
without
you're a,
letting them know, like,
yeah.
you know what, you're a SA survivor, I'm going to put you in front
Hmm.
of your attacker
Yeah.
without, you know what I mean, and like expecting that to go well. Like
Yeah, like
that's the equivalent of what we're doing to these dogs. It
you're
is
afraid of
horrible.
small spaces, so you get buried alive.
Correct.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
let's do
that's what
that.
that is.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us don't understand, and like I'll say this, like being a in the dog in working with dogs professionally and prepared me for having children, and having children has reinforced so much of what I learned about dogs, because there's so many similarities cognitively. Like it's so similar, like
Mm-hmm.
our brains work so similarly. So you have to, and people are like, but we're not talking about training children or humans, we're talking about training dogs. But like if you put yourself or your child in the position that your dog trainer is recommending and you feel uncomfortable, I would say red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag. If you wouldn't shock your kid into submission, don't do it to your dog. If you wouldn't, hit your husband on the face with a newspaper because he didn't, put the toilet seat down, don't hit your dog because he peed in the house. These are all very like common things. Like if you wouldn't spray your child in the face with vinegar when they, made like spilled something, then don't do that to your child or to your dog because he like counterserved.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the techniques other people use as like totally normal dog behavior stuff, when we wouldn't do it to human. And are the differences between humans and dogs and cats when it comes to trauma are really, really there's very little difference.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs do a little bit better about recovering, but if they're being exposed to the same trauma and trigger all the time, being hit, being shocked, the dog in the back is like threatening them through the fence. Like if we keep just like exposing them to the same trigger over and over again, they're not going to forget it anymore. Like it's not going to be like
Yeah.
dogs live in the moment. No, that dog lives in fear of going outside. That dog lives in fear of being hit. That dog associates peeing with being hit. So now the dog doesn't want to pee ever and is making themselves sick, right? Like there's so much that we do to dogs that we would go to jail for doing to our kids, or be like, CPS would show up knocking on our doors. So if a dog trainer makes recommendations, even as desperate as you are, because if you have a dog that you are, deciding whether or not they can live in this world, you might be desperate enough to try anything, but I would say, and I know that there's probably research to back me up. I can't cite any of it at this moment, but I would say that if you were to try the aggressive methods, you probably end up euthanizing. Like you will
Yeah.
probably just go ahead
Yeah.
and euthanize. Just if you are at a point where it's either I use a dog trainer that shocks my dog into submission or I humanely euthanize, please humanely euthanize that dog, because what you're going to do is put the community in more danger by trying those methods, and traumatize yourself. That all you're doing is signing up for paid trauma. You're going to pay this
Yeah.
dog trainer to train you how to suffer and how to make your pet suffer, and the end result's going to be the same or worse. It's going to become a more desperate situation. And a really trusted dog trainer who is genuinely here for the dog, the individual, and the community, is going to be able to look at that dog and look at you and say, I've exhausted all of the positive reinforcement. We've exhausted the veterinary care. We've exhausted the medication. We've tried everything, and there is nothing left to be done. This dog is not compatible with our world. And as hard as it is, you and your family and the community at large will be safer without this dog in it. And as hard as it is for a dog trainer to tell you that, a reputable, truly dedicated, educated dog trainer will have that conversation with you if they see that it is time. And if they genuinely believe that it's just like your family is not a good fit, they will also recommend like rehoming. Like that's what it is. But I don't feel like we should get to that point. Like we shouldn't get to the point where we're deciding on behavioral euthanasia. Instead, I would like it to be, let's start really paying attention to those growls, to those level ones, so we never get to those conversations. That's really, if there's anything that obviously a lot of people are beyond that point now, but if anybody's listening who has like a puppy or like a younger dog, or like, you know, you stumble upon this video because your dog snapped for the first time and you're like a really responsible pet parent and you're like, oh my God, what does it mean when my dog snaps? Hopefully the Google gods show you this, and you say, oh shoot, that was okay. That was a level 1. So now I need to work on this right now. I need to figure out what caused it, what happened, what was in the mind of the dog, what dog trainer can I find in my area? Michael Shikashio is a specialist in aggression. I really like him. He started off as a balance trainer. From my understanding, only uses positive reinforcement. He is not super divisive, so he will like work with, he has had balance trainers at his conferences and stuff, so I think he's gotten a bad rap, and I may be speaking completely out of ignorance, but from my understanding, there was like some controversy with Michael Shikashio because he invited balance trainers to a conversation, and like the positive only group was like, no, we shouldn't give them a platform. But Michael Shikashio has always been the person that I refer to when there is like a level of aggression that's that severe, because he started as a balance trainer. He's seen that aggressive dogs can be rehabilitated with positive reinforcement training, and he uses positive reinforcement methods. He trains a lot of dog trainers to specialize in aggression, and it takes a very special dog trainer to work with these dogs that are levels 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many dog level bite 6 level 6 bite dogs really exist anymore. Like I don't know that they exist. I think a level 6 is usually behavioral euthanasia immediately. But I think that Michael Shikashio is a great resource if you find yourself in this situation. And if you know, pay attention to who's commenting. Also, if you go on social media and you see Michael Shikashio, pay attention to who's commenting and follow those trainers too, because a lot of them are learning from him. They also have, you know, experience themselves. It's not just Michael. He's trained a million people at this point. So there's a big group of dog trainers out there that is qualified. Are you going to go to a dog trainer that specializes in puppies for aggression? No. Are you going to go to Milena DiMartini? As much as I adore her, She's a specialist in separation anxiety. Do not go to her for aggression. She wouldn't take you anyway. Like, her and her team would probably refer you elsewhere. But just find a dog trainer that's positive reinforcement based, but also specializes in aggression. Because if you're really deciding between life and death, you need to bring out like the big guns, which is not just like any dog trainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And we are so over
Completely out
time,
of time.
but that's okay. I think we're going to kind of continue this conversation next week with a Texas A&M veterinary medical and biomedical sciences article study showing that more than 99% of U.S. dogs have behavior problems. And we're going to talk about that next week.
And if you have a dog and your dog has a behavior problem, we'll probably be talking about it. So yeah, I haven't read the article yet. Does it talk about what the behavior problems are, like the top ones, or?
Yeah, it's the top categories are aggression, separation and attachment behaviors, and then fear and anxiety behaviors.
All of
So
which can
yeah.
lead to bites.
And
So yeah.
and they gathered all of this information from the Dog Aging Project. So if anybody is familiar with like Rodney Habib and Dr. Karen Becker, they pull a lot of information from the Dog Aging Project. So I think that's a really they have a pretty good database
Yes.
of information on dogs, and I think this is going to be
It's
something
a
cool to talk about.
well-researched piece. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well,
yeah.
thank you guys for joining us. If you have any follow-up questions and or comments, concerns, referrals, like you've had a really great success with a dog trainer that helped you with aggression cases, please tag them. Let's keep the comments kind. You don't have to agree with us, but you also don't have to argue with us. So just be kind. I know dog training people get very sensitive, people get very reactive. So let's keep the reactivity to a minimum. And if you're just mean, we're going to delete what you say anyway. So, all right. Thanks,
All
you
right.
guys.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.